April 26, 1943, near Kasserine Pass, Tunisia. The desert wind cuts low across the plain, dragging sand against steel. Inside the turret of an M4 Sherman, Staff Sergeant William Harper wipes sweat from his eyes and grips the elevation wheel. The engine behind him growls, loud, unmistakable. He knows the Germans can hear it. Everyone knows the Sherman is noisy. Across the wadi, a German Panzer IV commander peers through his binoculars and smirks. "Amerikanischer Panzer," he mutters. An American tank, thin-skinned, too tall, easy prey. He gives the order to fire. First contact. The first shell slams into the Sherman's glacis plate with a metallic crack that echoes across the valley. Inside the tank, the impact feels like a giant hammer striking a church bell. Harper's head snaps forward. Someone shouts. The tank lurches, but it doesn't burn. "Hit, but not through!" the driver yells. Harper exhales without realizing he'd been holding his breath. He swings the turret, searching for the muzzle flash that gave them away. This isn't training. This isn't theory. This is what American armor looks like when it meets German guns for the first time in force. The Germans had already fought British tanks for years. They knew thin armor. They knew slow reloads. And when they first encountered the M4 Sherman in North Africa, they thought they knew this tank too. They laughed. From the German perspective, the Sherman was an odd machine. It was tall, almost clumsy-looking compared to the low, angular profile of German panzers. Its main gun, the 75mm M3, lacked the raw penetration of the feared 88mm or even the newer long-barreled Panzer IV guns. And it burned. Everyone knew it burned. German after-action reports from 1943 described American tanks as mechanically crude and tactically inferior. Crews joked that Shermans were designed to carry 5 coffins into battle at once. The nickname Ronson spread quickly, lights on the first try. But that laughter masked a dangerous misunderstanding. Because while German tank doctrine focused on destroying enemy armor with fewer, more powerful machines, American doctrine had been built on a different assumption entirely. Tanks were tools of movement, not duels, and more importantly, they were replaceable. Back in the Tunisian dust, Harper finally spots the enemy. A Panzer IV sits hull down behind a rise, its gun already tracking him. "Target front," Harper shouts. The gunner fires. The Sherman's cannon bucks, sending a shell screaming across the sand. It strikes the Panzer's turret ring and ricochets, throwing sparks but doing little damage. The German crew laughs again. Then the Panzer fires a second time. This one punches through the Sherman's side armor. Flames lick through the fighting compartment. The smell of burning oil floods the air. "Bail out! Bail out!" someone screams. Harper doesn't remember climbing out. He remembers hitting the ground and crawling, the heat at his back, the sky impossibly blue above him. Behind him, the Sherman burns, thick black smoke rising like a signal flare. For the Germans watching through optics, it looks like confirmation. Another American tank destroyed, another crew scattered, another easy victory. But then something strange happens. Within hours, new Shermans begin to appear. Not one, not two, but entire platoons. Dust clouds rise on the horizon. Engines rumble, dozens of them. Fresh tanks roll forward, paint still clean, tracks unscarred. Crews jump into positions with practiced speed. Radios crackle with calm, clipped American voices. The German commander frowns. They fire again. Another Sherman burns, then another. And still the Americans keep coming. By nightfall, the battlefield is littered with wrecks, many of them American. By German standards, it's a successful day. Kill ratios favor the Reich. The math looks good. But when dawn breaks, the Americans are still there. Worse, they have more tanks than before. What German commanders failed to grasp in 1943 is that they are no longer fighting an enemy whose strength is measured by tactical exchanges alone. They are fighting an industrial system. Every Sherman they destroy has already been replaced on a factory ledger thousands of miles away. In Detroit, in Ohio, in California. While German factories struggle under bombing raids, shortages, and bureaucratic delays, American assembly lines run day and night. Steel flows. Engines arrive by rail. Turrets are bolted into place with clockwork precision. The Sherman Harper crawled out of this morning already has a successor, and another after that. German crews joke in mess tents. They tally kills with chalk marks on gun barrels. They trade stories of Shermans exploding spectacularly under fire. What they don't yet realize, what they won't realize until it's far too late, is that the Americans are not trying to win the tank duel. They are trying to exhaust the enemy's ability to fight at all. And in that war, numbers don't just matter, they decide everything. The Arithmetic of Destruction. July 10, 1943, near Gela, Sicily. The sea is still rough when the first Shermans grind down the landing ramps. Saltwater sprays across their hulls as tracks bite into sand that hasn't seen armored vehicles in its entire history. Infantry scatter aside, waving the tanks inland. Above them, naval guns still thunder, shaking the air. Lieutenant Karl Fischer of the German 15th Panzergrenadier Division watches through a periscope slit from a camouflaged position on higher ground. He counts silently. 1, 2, 3. More Shermans roll ashore. He stops counting at 20. Fischer has fought in Russia. He has fought British armor in North Africa. He understands tanks, guns, angles, ranges. And what he sees troubles him. Not because the American tanks look impressive, but because there are simply too many of them. The first clash comes quickly. German anti-tank guns open fire, punching through Shermans at close range. Tanks burn. Crews scramble out, some on fire, some wounded, some not moving at all. To Fischer, it looks familiar, reassuring, even. The Americans are losing tanks at an alarming rate, but then something unsettling happens. They don't slow down. Another wave pushes forward, maneuvering around wrecks that are still burning. The Americans don't pause to admire destroyed enemies. They don't stop to regroup. They treat knocked-out tanks the same way an infantry unit treats fallen men. Tragic, but not decisive. Fischer radios back to battalion command, reporting multiple American tanks destroyed. The reply comes back cold and clipped. How many remain operational? Fischer hesitates. He looks again. Unknown, he answers. More arriving. This is the moment where German doctrine begins to fail, not tactically, but conceptually. German armored warfare has always been built around quality, precision, superior optics, superior guns, better trained crews. The belief that fewer, better machines, used correctly, can dominate the battlefield. And for years that belief has been proven right. But now, in Sicily, it starts to crack, because the Americans are playing a different game entirely. Every Sherman destroyed here is a statistic, not a catastrophe. The crews are trained to abandon tanks quickly. The loss of a vehicle is expected, planned for. Replacement tanks are already staged offshore. Spare parts arrive by ship in quantities the Germans can barely comprehend. Meanwhile, Fischer knows what happens when a German tank is lost. It takes months to replace. Back in Germany, factories are struggling. Allied bombers hammer rail yards, steel plants, and assembly lines. Skilled workers are being drafted into the army. Components arrive late, or not at all. Even when a tank is completed, getting it to the front is another gamble entirely. And unlike the Americans, German industry is fragmented. Different factories build different models with incompatible parts. Repairs become nightmares. Cannibalization becomes routine. One destroyed Panther is not just a tank lost. It is weeks of work, tons of steel, and trained labor erased in seconds. By contrast, American Shermans share standardized parts. Engines can be swapped, transmissions replaced, entire turrets lifted and mounted onto new hulls. The system is designed not for elegance, but for speed. And speed is winning. As the Sicilian campaign grinds on, German reports begin to change tone. They still note high American tank losses. They still record impressive kill ratios. But a new phrase starts appearing in intelligence summaries and field diaries. Enemy armor appears inexhaustible. Fischer experiences this firsthand weeks later during a counterattack near Troina. His unit ambushes an American armored column at dawn. Smoke, fire, chaos. By noon, 5 Shermans are burning wrecks. But by evening, the Americans are back. Different tanks, different crews, same numbers. The psychological effect is devastating. German gunners begin to feel like they're bailing water from a sinking ship with their helmets. No matter how well they aim, no matter how many rounds they fire, the pressure never eases. There is no visible thinning of the enemy's strength. For the Americans, this changes everything. Commanders are willing to take risks German officers would never consider. They push armor forward aggressively, knowing losses can be replaced. They use Shermans to support infantry directly, even when anti-tank threats are present, because the alternative, slowing down, is worse. This willingness to accept losses buys time. It buys ground. It buys momentum. And momentum is something German forces are rapidly losing. By late 1943, German armored units begin requesting withdrawals, not because they've been defeated tactically, but because they're being worn down by an enemy that simply does not stop coming. The laughter fades. In its place grows something far more dangerous, a creeping realization that the battlefield is no longer a contest of skill alone. It is a war of arithmetic, and the numbers no longer favor Germany. Normandy and the End of Laughter. June 11, 1944. Near Tilly-sur-Seulles, Normandy, France, rain turns the hedgerows into mud-soaked walls, trapping sound and sight alike. Inside a Panther tank concealed along a sunken lane, Oberleutnant Hans Becker waits with his gunner, listening to the distant clatter of engines, American engines. Becker smiles thinly. He has read the reports from Italy. He knows the Sherman. He knows its weaknesses: thin side armor, mediocre gun, high silhouette. On paper, this should be another slaughter. "Hold fire," he orders quietly. "Let them come closer." Through gaps in the hedgerow, the first Sherman appears, turret traversing cautiously. Then another, then another. Infantry follow close behind, using the tanks as moving cover. Becker counts targets, already calculating angles. "Fire!" The Panther's 75mm long-barreled gun roars. The first Sherman erupts, its turret hatch blown open. The second dies seconds later. The third tries to reverse, but the hedgerow traps it. Another shot, another fireball. Inside the Panther, the crew exchanges grim nods, just like the manuals promised. But something feels wrong. Minutes pass. Becker expects silence, the pause that usually follows a successful ambush. Instead, the engine noise grows louder. More Shermans appear, pushing through gaps, smashing hedgerows, advancing as if the burning wrecks ahead of them are nothing more than road signs. "Impossible," the loader mutters. Becker fires again. Another kill, and still they come. By mid-morning, Becker's Panther has destroyed 6 Shermans. The crew is exhausted, sweat-soaked, ears ringing. Ammunition is running low. Smoke from burning American tanks hangs thick in the air, yet the pressure never eases. This is Normandy's cruel revelation. For the first time, German tank crews face American armor not in isolated clashes, but in sustained, grinding combat, day after day, mile after mile. And the Shermans never seem to run out. Behind the front, Allied supply depots overflow. Artificial harbors pump men and machines ashore in numbers that defy German intelligence estimates. Roads clog with replacement vehicles moving forward as damaged ones move back. A Sherman knocked out in the morning might be replaced by afternoon. A Panther lost is gone forever. Becker's radio crackles with frantic messages from nearby units. Panthers disabled by air attack. Tigers immobilized for lack of fuel. Crews abandoning vehicles they cannot repair or recover. The balance has shifted, not in firepower, but in endurance. German commanders begin to notice patterns that make no sense under traditional thinking. American units attack repeatedly, even after heavy losses. They probe, withdraw, then return stronger. They accept casualties. German doctrine considers unacceptable. And it works. Because while German armor wins individual engagements, it loses the campaign. By late June, Becker's battalion is down to a handful of operational tanks. Replacement requests vanish into a bureaucratic void. Rail lines are cut. Fuel allocations shrink. Every movement risks attack from Allied fighter bombers prowling the skies. The Americans, meanwhile, adapt. New Shermans appear with added armor plates welded to the hull. Others mount the 76mm gun, better suited to penetrate German tanks. Specialized variants arrive. Tank destroyers, bulldozer Shermans, flamethrower tanks. The platform evolves faster than Germany can respond. Becker destroys another Sherman near Villers-Bocage and feels no satisfaction at all. He knows what will follow. Another one, then another, then 10 more. In private conversations, German officers stop mocking the Sherman. The jokes disappear. The tone changes. They begin speaking not of American tanks, but of American factories, of assembly lines that never sleep, of ports that never stop unloading, of convoys that stretch to the horizon. The realization is settling in. Germany is not being beaten by inferior machines. It is being smothered by replacements. When the math became terror, August 18, 1944. Falaise Pocket, France. The road is choked with wreckage, smashed trucks, overturned guns, dead horses, and abandoned tanks burned black by air attack. Smoke hangs low, mixing with the stench of fuel and decay. Oberfeldwebel Ernst Müller walks beside his immobilized Panzer IV, boots crunching over shattered glass. There is no laughter left in his unit. Müller has fought since Poland. He has seen French tanks, British tanks, Russian tanks, and now American ones. He remembers the jokes from Tunisia. He remembers the early victories. He remembers believing that skill and steel would always prevail. Now he watches American Shermans crest the hills in waves. They do not rush. They do not hesitate. They advance with the confidence of men who know the enemy cannot stop them anymore. German resistance inside the pocket is collapsing, not because the Americans have superior tanks, but because they have enough tanks. Every road, every field, every escape route is sealed by armor that seems to multiply overnight. Muller overhears a young gunner whisper, almost in panic, "How many do they have?" No one answers. Above them, Allied aircraft scream down, attacking anything that moves. Fuel trucks explode. Recovery vehicles are shredded. A Panther bogs down in mud and is abandoned, not destroyed by enemy fire, but by the simple absence of gasoline. And still, the Shermans keep coming. By this stage of the war, German commanders understand the truth they tried to ignore for years. Every Sherman destroyed costs the Americans metal, time, and a trained crew, losses they can absorb. Every German tank lost costs irreplaceable experience, scarce fuel, and production capacity that no longer exists. Reports from the front become increasingly desperate. Enemy armor attacking continuously. Losses cannot be replaced. Unit combat strength critically reduced. This is no longer warfare as the German army understands it. It is attrition on an industrial scale. Inside the Falaise pocket, the effect is psychological as much as physical. German crews fire until their barrels glow, then fall back, then fire again. But the pressure never lifts. There is no pause, no lull, no moment to regroup. For the Americans, the Sherman has become exactly what it was designed to be, a workhorse. It is not expected to survive every battle. It is expected to fight, be lost if necessary, and be replaced without delay. Entire U.S. armored divisions rotate equipment while staying in combat. Crews climb into new tanks with minimal disruption. Maintenance units work miracles under fire, patching and salvaging wherever possible. Muller watches as a Sherman is knocked out by a Panzerfaust at close range. A clean hit. Flames erupt. Cheers rise briefly from nearby German infantry. Then another Sherman rolls forward and fires point blank into the building. Cheers die instantly. This is the moment when fear replaces hope. German soldiers begin to understand that killing American tanks does not slow the enemy. It merely reveals their position. Every destroyed Sherman invites artillery, airstrikes, and more armor. Resistance becomes not heroic, but suicidal. In late August, the pocket collapses. Survivors flee on foot, abandoning what little heavy equipment remains. The roads out of Falaise are littered with German tanks that never faced American armor at all. Machines lost to fuel shortages, air attack, or simple exhaustion. Muller throws one last look over his shoulder. Shermans move steadily through the wreckage, engines rumbling, antennas swaying. Crews scan calmly, methodically. There is no triumph in their faces, only determination. The math is complete. Germany can still fight battles, but it can no longer fight time. The machine that could not be stopped. September 14, 1944. Near Aachen, Germany. Rain drums against steel as American Shermans nose forward through shattered suburbs. Brick dust clouds the air. Church spires lie broken, streets torn open by artillery. For the first time, American tanks are fighting on German soil. Inside one Sherman, Sergeant Thomas Alvarez adjusts his headset and listens to the steady rhythm of the engine. He has already lost 2 tanks since Normandy, 2 crews, 2 sets of friends. And yet here he is again. New tank, same mission. Across the street, a German anti-tank gun opens fire. The round slams into a Sherman ahead of Alvarez, ripping it open. Flames burst from the hatches. Alvarez doesn't stop. He drives around the burning wreck and fires into the building that hid the gun. The structure collapses. The road opens. The advance continues. This is the final transformation of the Sherman's role. By late 1944, American commanders fully understand the tank's limitations and its strength. The Sherman is no longer judged by how well it survives. It is judged by how reliably it advances, how quickly it can be replaced, how seamlessly it integrates into a system that includes infantry, artillery, engineers, air support, and logistics. German commanders watching this advance see something they cannot counter. They field heavier tanks, Panthers, Tigers, Jag Tigers, machines of immense power and complexity. But each one is a burden. They break down. They consume fuel Germany no longer has. They require skilled crews who are already dead or captured. When one is lost, there is no replacement waiting. Alvarez's unit receives replacement Shermans within days. Spare parts arrive in bulk. Crews train continuously, cycling fresh men into combat units with alarming speed. Losses are painful, but they do not paralyze the force. This relentless continuity crushes German resistance. At Aachen, German defenders fight fiercely, but they cannot hold ground against an enemy that never pauses. Every delay costs them ammunition they cannot replace. Every destroyed American tank is answered by 2 more. German after-action reports from the Western Front now describe American armor not as weak, but as overwhelming. Not tactically brilliant, but unstoppable. The laughter from 1943 is gone, replaced by grim silence. By December, as the Germans launch their final gamble in the Ardennes, they do so with a desperate understanding. Victory depends on speed, on breaking through before American replacements arrive. They fail. When the weather clears, Shermans pour into the battle from every direction. Factories back home continue to produce tanks even as the battle rages. Losses mount, but the line holds. The truth becomes undeniable. The Sherman was never meant to be perfect. It was meant to be plentiful. And in a war defined by attrition, by distance, by logistics, and by time, that single design choice proves decisive. German commanders once laughed at American tanks. By 1945, they no longer laugh. They surrender.